The mother looked up from the rocking chair where she sat going over the research paper on induced regression she was preparing for publication and smiled at her infant son. She wondered if she would ever get over the pleasure of seeing her ex-fiancé and scientific rival reduced to babbling infancy. She had considered killing him when he told her he was breaking off the engagement, but this was a more fitting end for the louse. It was worth all the trouble of changing his dirty diapers, bathing and feeding him to see him like this, she decided as she went back to her work. Next week she would enroll him in daycare permanently so she could get on with reorganizing her lab. She smiled as she thought about the graduate students she had hired, not one man among them. If necessary, she'd bring him to the lab and let one of her pretty grads change his diapers and take care of him for the day. She was sure he'd like that. He always enjoyed having young women fawn over him when he was the lab director. Of course she had told the pert grad student that he had promised a job that her services would not be required. She had found the job application in his desk the day after he had told her their engagement was off. She knew it was petty of her to exclude her from the group of new assistants she had hired, but she didn't feel like looking at the face of someone who her fiancé had been chasing. He had his wish now, she smirked. He'd spend the rest of his days being watched over and having every whim attended to by adoring women. All she had to do was adjust his age to match his infantile desires. Once he had made the necessary mental adjustment, he was perfectly happy to spend his days in diapers, sucking on his BABA and making goo-goo eyes at any buxom female who passed by. She glanced over at him and knew she was right. He was content now. In a way she had done him a favor, he had gotten what he wanted most out of life and all he had to give up was one small thing: his mind. Sitting in the crib was an adorable little boy with curly brown hair and big blue eyes. He appeared to be a little less than a year old. He was swaddled in thick cloth diapers covered with translucent blue plastic panties. The late afternoon sun streamed into the nursery and seemed to crown him with an aura of gold. He sucked his thumb charmingly as he snatched at the illuminated dust motes and thought, "Balm. Gar. Namemga."